Hi, welcome to my mini lesson on Reading Literature Standard 1. This is for the Common Core State Standards, and the standard that I'm using today is for the grades 11 and 12 strand. So the standard, as it's written, says, cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text, including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain. So let's break that down. There are three things that we will be able to do once we have mastered this standard. The first is, I can provide strong and thorough evidence from the text to back up what I think the text says directly. The second is that I can provide strong and thorough evidence from the text to back up inferences I've drawn from the text. And remember, those inferences are just conclusions that you've come to based on things that the text hints at, but doesn't necessarily say straight out. And the third thing that we'll be able to do is I can determine where the text is unclear. So let's look at some examples. The first example we're going to look at is I can provide strong and thorough evidence from the text to back up what I think the text says directly. So let's take a look at a sample question. How does Julio Cortázar use sensory details to create a certain tone in The Night Face Up? Use examples to support your response. So my answer was, Cortázar uses sensory details to create a dark and sinister tone that makes the reader feel concern for the protagonist. For example, while the main character is in the hospital, Cortázar writes, they got him over to X-ray, and 20 minutes later, with the still damp negative lying on his chest like a black tombstone, they pushed him into surgery. The X-ray negative is compared to a tombstone, which implies the character might die. So you can see that I have strong and thorough evidence from the text. There's a quote directly from the text. My answer of him creating a dark and sinister tone is supported with the black tombstone imagery that I have suggested could mean that the main character is going to die. So you can clearly see strong and thorough evidence that backs up what the text says. Let's move on to the second example. In this one, we're going to provide strong and thorough evidence from the text to back up inferences that I've drawn from the text. So the prompt says, use examples from The Night Face Up to explain how it represents the genre magical realism. Now, in the story, it doesn't just come out and say, hey, I'm an example of magical realism because I do this thing. You have to use some inferences. So my response is, The Night Face Up represents the genre magical realism because the story blurs the line between what seems like it could be real and what seems like fiction. The protagonist flips between two worlds, a world where he is in a motorcycle accident and a world where he is a Motecan being hunted by Aztecs for a ritual sacrifice. It is only at the end that the reader and the protagonist learn the truth when Cortázar writes, he managed to close his eyelids again, although he knew now he was not going to wake up, that he was awake, that the marvelous dream had been the other, absurd as all dreams are. The world that seems so real to the reader is revealed to be the dream, and the reality is that the protagonist will be sacrificed in the night, face up. So you can see again, strong and thorough evidence from the text to back up what I'm saying. So if I'm putting this together that because there seems to be a blurring between these lines, between what seems like it could be real and what seems like it's fiction, and I've backed it up here with this textual evidence, I have a really good strong answer. Let's move on to this last example. In this one, I'm only going to assess the juniors and seniors with, but if you are a freshman or a sophomore, I think you could handle this too. This is too easy. All you have to do is determine where the text is unclear. All right, I think that's kind of subjective anyway, so a lot of this could be your own opinion, okay, as long as you can back it up well with what the text says. So for example, if the question is, where does Cortazar leave matters unclear or uncertain in the night face up? My answer is, one matter Cortazar left unclear in the night face up was the name of the protagonist. In the story it says, and he, because for himself, for just going along thinking, he did not have a name. So you see, it can be as simple as that. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Check out the next video when it gets up there. And until the next time, don't party too hard.